Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our third speaker series with the Salmon Orca project. Today, we are honored to have Yakama Nation join us and host this presentation. We've worked with Yakama Nation closely, especially over the course of this last year, and so I am extremely excited to hear from them and their council. Up first, we have Davis Washines. He's the government relations liaison for Yakama Nation, and he's going to get us started with a blessing.
Watuenas kaiwanas kasinui nakuna achapsa ichinia pako nakuj kotanawa sa tlach de miwai nakuchima na nakushpawashu shana ichinia nakutlach nakuna na shukta mishpawas mishpasinwita nakushna aikencha chinchimaman nakushna ana atwana naknuisha achtun maikanashtun Kuchi and a cool wetway and a kushnas achops nami quit and a kush the makin on chi wapatu and a kushnas takshia itchin your squia kunazat kenona patunan and a kush payu ayat kenua and a kushi pow daimasha hai hunat pa and a kun dam chashasha pui chushin and a kushna chushna and a knoisha ach and a konana kundam sinwita china kakyaman and a kushpa na pa atwanata na konana kundam na witkan rach iwinata sinwit pawe lach simisa ichinya lach shwe lach kamna and konana kushnas konawa china waltaikash na kushna kawaknik na kuna na kushpa atkeksha na kuna atapta ichinya pakuya na kumun Nana geta kuna kasinita siapatimki na kutach na kuna mashukta. Nai. This morning, nothing new for our people. Whenever we gather, even this technology that we have to use today, when we gather and we want to have a clear mind and a clear thought, one heart, one mind. And so this is the way that we prepare ourselves for a very important discussions and to listen to what is going to be presented and hear with a willingness because we all have a concern for our way of life that includes our resources, our fish, everything. This important time of year when we begin to prepare, welcome our first foods back. And because those are the things that sacrifice for us And as I stated earlier in my language, when I woke up this morning, and you see the mountain behind me, our Patu, that it was very beautiful. She is the first one to greet the new day, the light, and all the blessings that she brings and the water. And so this was a teaching that we carry on to recognize that water is the life of everything. And through our elders, we're taught that, we must do our best to follow these, what the Creator had blessed us with. And throughout this presentation, you'll hear more, but I just wanted to explain that to everybody so you fully understand and hope that we all have a very good and productive meeting. Ko Klai Kushnai. Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful words and the blessing for this afternoon now. We're going to go ahead and move on into our agenda. My name is Kaylani Scott. I'm the communications manager for the Nez Perce tribe. And I would like to welcome our Yakama Nation council members. We have several on that you'll get to hear from today. Up first, we have Yakama Nation Tribal Council Chairman, Delano Saluskin. Chairman, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Kalani, and we appreciate the opportunity to share with our relatives the Yakama Nation story about the importance of salmon. And we appreciate our host, the Nez Perce tribe. That again, the importance of salmon. You've heard our Mr. Washines share the story there, and we always try to follow that. But today we want to be able to share with our relatives the challenges of getting salmon back to their homeland where they can follow their circle of life. We also want to be able to share with, as you heard Mr. Washines talk about our elders, they talk about everything is connected. Everything is connected. When you affect something in one area, you're going to affect something in another area, such as the challenges of our salmon. You affect their homeland where they reproduce, it's going to affect the numbers of them coming back. It's going to affect the orcas out in the oceans. So there isn't anything that isn't connected in Mother Nature in one form, shape, or another. And I think you will hear from our staff and our council here the importance of trying to understand how everything is connected so that we can all enjoy what God has provided us through the salmon. So I just want to appreciate the opportunity to be able to say these few words, and I know that we have a lot to present. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Elaine Harvey. Thank you.
Thanks, Chairman. Ku Shiaputimki Elaine Harvey, Ku Washinash, Kotipa, Ku Komitpa. Say hello, and I would like to greet each one of you. Good afternoon. My name is Elaine Harvey. I come from the Komitpa band of the Yakama Nation. And today we as tribal leaders and resource managers come to you to share our concern that we have for all our resources, which include the water, our rivers, all the aquatic species, the wildlife, and all our plant species, which are really important to us because it's a part of our daily life. And we as resource managers We strive to protect, enhance, and restore all these culturally important resources for our children and our future generations. In our short lifespan that we've had, we have witnessed many changes in our environment that has changed over time. For example, the multi-year droughts and the lack of snowpack that we have in our mountains, and how these impact our resources and how they impact our food gathering seasons. And today we have early seasons and we have shorter seasons. And those impacts, they impact us on our daily life. And today we want to share this video that we've recently completed titled Land of the Yakima. And it talks about these cumulative impacts that have happened over the past 150 years to our usual and accustomed lands where we continue to fish, hunt, and gather. So I'd like to thank you for your time, and please turn the volume up to hear the video and enjoy the video.
So Jeremy Takala is the Yakama Nation's tribal council member for the Fish and Wildlife Committee. Wonderful. Thanks for joining us today. Go ahead and take over.
Thank you, Kaloni. Winashash Bakunasha, Shapatimki Jeremy Takala, Washnashta, Kinchiwanapa, Kmitpa, Pawanpa, Mayam, Papamyana, Wichi, Pachoipa. Nick Pachoy, everyone. My name is Jeremy Takala. I am one of the 14 tribal council members here for the Yakama Nation. Formerly, I was employed with the Yakama Nation Fisheries program for many of years before being elected into this position here. I do come from the Big River, and as many of our participants today, and some of our leaders here, we all come from fisher families, and we still carry on that way of life today and still pass on to our children and grandchildren. So, I'm sure many, have fished, growing up and learned the respect and importance of salmon and how we are not to be careless of our foods. And, even the laws that we practice today with our longhouses and the winter ceremonies and so on, and even acknowledge our prayer on Sundays, and respect to not break the ground or hunt or fish, on Sundays. So I just want to mention that, who I am and where I come from. And some of our speakers today will be reflecting on their family's history of fishing. I just want to start out, by saying, Yakama Nation, consists of the 14 tribes and bands, and we're truly blessed with this land and its many resources that sustains us. As we all know, since time immemorial, it has sustained us all and still sustains us to this day. We're also blessed with the way of life, with our language, and with teachings that is passed down since time immemorial. As a part of these teachings, we acknowledge our responsibility to honor, protect, restore our first foods, medicines, that of which includes what we're talking today about, salmon. Therefore, as our fishery program progresses, we dedicate our salmon recovery efforts to our ancestors who passed on these ways and who cared for this land before our time and their vision for future generations. We also dedicate our hard efforts to many past leaders who fought to maintain our way of life, whether it be on the river fishing, on the edges of the river, the tributaries, or in the courtroom. We also dedicate our efforts to our employees who continue to follow the path laid down for us and to maintain the legacy and mission to, as our past elected leader mentioned, make it like it was. Like our first food providers, our fisheries staff take pride and respect their work, knowing who and what they are providing for, not only the people, but also the contributions that are made to the ecosystem like it was intended by a creator. As our leaders have voiced many times, we don't own this land, we are simply taking care of it for them. With that, Yakama Nation has put forth many years of salmon recovery efforts, but yet we are still faced with many challenges for the survival of salmon. But also that includes all anadromous and resident native species within our tributaries and our main stem Columbia. Yakama Nation Fisheries has 14 subbasins, 7+ facilities, 12 field offices, and 1 main office, and roughly employs over 200 employees within our seated area, our reservation, and our UNA areas. Many of our work consists of fall chinook, sockeye reintroduction, coho in the upper Columbia, steelhead kelp reconditioning, white sturgeon restoration, Pacific lamprey restoration and reintroduction, predation management, research, monitoring, evaluation, education and outreach, habitat restoration, enhancement, coordinated land use management, watershed planning, operating hatcheries with fundamental principles, and many more next steps for each of our fisheries projects. Most importantly, developing creative approaches as we all face climate change and the warming river conditions that contribute to the negative impacts of our outmigrating or incoming salmon species. Our people still maintain that close connections with our land and water. We will continue to advocate for salmon recovery efforts and to keep that vision our past leaders had passed down to us for the next future generations. I want to give a few quotes from our past leaders and our past fisheries biologists. Make it like it was, Bill Yella. If we're going to catch fish, then we should produce fish, Levi George. To us, the lamprey are sacred food. They serve a purpose and they are part of the balance of life. That's why Bobby Begay. If the region is going to return these populations to their historical numbers, we need to diversify our restoration efforts. That's why Patrick Luke. So with that, these are the concerns and the efforts that we as Yakama Nation has put forth and still advocating for fish survival. And I'm sure you all know we are facing all these impacts that we see day to day, season to season. And like Elaine mentioned, with the short winter seasons, less snowpack is contributing to the struggles that we are seeing with our recovery efforts. But never yet, it doesn't mean for us to put that on hold, that we continue to advocate for the survival of our salmon or Najima species. So I offer these few words today and hope that all tribes within their fisheries programs maintain the same effort and vision as our elders have within our Yakama Nation. I want to thank you for your time today and wish you all the best and fish on. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I still remember as a young girl seeing my first sturgeon and thinking it was a shark, me being however young, and then just trying to imagine those things in the river and maybe swimming next to one. Yeah, amazing how long they've been here, right up there with the dinosaurs. We are going to go ahead and try the video, and I believe they got the technical issues sorted out. So I'm gonna go ahead and hand it back over. If Danella, you wouldn't mind trying to pull that up again. And it looks like the sound needs to be,
Before that was the time this river started to run. Then God created the fish in this river and put deer in these mountains and made laws to which has come the increase of fish and game. When we were created, we were given our ground to live on. And from that time, these were our rights. My strength is from the fish. My blood is from the fish, from the roots and berries. The fish and game are the essence of my life. I was not brought from a foreign country and did not come here. I was put here by the Creator. Whenever the seasons open, I raise my heart in thanks to the Creator for His bounty that this food has come. Chief Manaine, Yakama Nation, 1915.
Pato plays a very important part, as well as the other mountains in the Cascade Range, as they provide clean and cold water for all of the resources that is within the mountains and to the valleys, and for all the animals, for everything.
For our tribe, we believe in the importance of everything from the smallest insect to the largest bird, and that part of where we live, everything's connected. Klickitat River, White Salmon River, Wind River, all these rivers, they're all tributaries of Inchiwana. The Columbia River, in our ways and our beliefs, is the main artery of this land. These mountains, these rivers, there's stories, there's legends.
This is home. We're connected to the broad scope of habitats and ecosystems and species and plants and animals that exist here. And that's how our people have lived for thousands of years.
The history of our people is the history of this land. We were blessed not only with, the land and the resources, we were also blessed with the way of life, with the language, with teachings.
You hear that term, traditional ecological knowledge. We understand it, we know it, our elders knew it, and that's why we always share our concerns for the progress that is made by Western society.
In 1927, the immense power possibilities of the Columbia were surveyed and charted. Man takes up the struggle against the frontier.
Today, I think there is a movement to recognize the colonization of our people. And so one of the challenges, is to, first of all, understand what that means, and then this concept of decolonization. For a lot of times, decisions were made when the Yakama Nation, we had no ability to speak on behalf of what we felt was our responsibility. I was 6 years old when the Celilo Falls was inundated by the Dalles Dam. And after it was covered up, it was just a matter of being forced off the river and then having to relocate to the reservation.
A vast new industry is rising, a symbol of the place of power in a new age, power to make the American dream come true.
Mankind really likes to focus on what their interest is in this earth, and because of that, you see abuse. We've got hydroelectric dams that have turned our river from a flowing, beautiful river full of life to a system of lakes. Forestry practices that over the years have degraded our forests to the point where it'll be hard for them to return without our intervention.
I've seen a lot of changes in this area with industrialization and parcelization of lands. I'm really concerned also with climate change.
Climate change's been happening. Low fish count runs, smaller, shorter winter seasons, wildfires are more frequent.
Really what it comes down to is all these other interests are competing for the same resources, and usually the ones that fall short are the wildlife and the fish and the plants. We ride the burden on them.
There will always be impacts. That's what we've been saying all along. That's what our ancestors been saying all along. And in the end, when development is done, what impacts will it have on our natural resources? Our elders would say they don't have a voice, so you have to speak up for those resources. We hear resources, but we define it as our first foods. Plant life, the ones that walk, the ones that fly, the ones that swim, the ones that grow. Even the trees, they would say it's the lungs of our Mother Earth that provides air for us to breathe.
I have 4 girls. I would love for there to be fish for their grandkids to fish. and elk for their grandkids to hunt. You may think that we're here to take care of the land. Some people are taught that the land takes care of us. But no matter how you think about it, whether we're using the resources or whether we're taking care of them, we have a part to play to make sure that they're here for future generations.
The Northwest is a key part in the world with our Cascade Range, the mountaintops, everything. My hopes and dreams for our children of these lands around us is that it can be protected. It can be managed in a safe, proper way.
I think community involvement between the tribes and industries is important. Everyone taking their fair share in protecting what's left here, not only for our future, but everybody's future who lives here and enjoys this area.
The Yakama Nation, we're not going anywhere. And we can't go anywhere. This is where the Creator put us. And so what I tell our neighbors is that you're not going anywhere either. So we have to come to understanding that although we may have differences about things, we still have to share this part of the world. And one of the beliefs that we carry is we don't own this. It belongs to our children. It belongs to our grandchildren. And we're just taking care of it for them. Wow. What a thought.
Hi, I'm Brownstow Jim Jr. My name is Yumti Chum. I'm a Mid-Columbia River Indian. Wana Satanan. We are part of the Kamispa band, which was consolidated of different bands of the Mid-Columbia. The bands of Alderdale, Pine Creek, Arlington, Roosevelt, John Day, and down to Skin and Maryhill, joined under the Yakama Nation as the Kamispa band. That is the oral history that our people told of. We're connected to the big river from the time of creation, from the beginning of time, a man and a woman. And these stories are told in sacred ceremonies, the most sacred services that we have. They're then told and interpreted to our future generations. That's how long we've been here. And our belief is the first belief before there was white paper or black written words on the white paper. That those are really important to us, and we still have them. This is how we are connected. We've been here this long, and our burial grounds are evident. All the resources and the places are named in our dialect from the big river. We still know of these places, and we travel and put our footprints upon these grounds where our ancestors went. It was too precious, and it was instilled in us that we would not leave the river. We would not be herded into a reservation, and agree to the white man's law and say that this is where we'll reside. This is where our practice and where we'll gather our resources. They said, you're going to say no. This is my home. These are my foods. This is what was revealed by creation. In the burial grounds, that we would not leave our ancestors. So to this day, we remain resident, which was really important, a statement to the highest one, our creator, the highest authority, is witness to our endearment to this earth, to this land along the Columbia River. And as time went, our people had the oral history of the non-native people's arrival. They had the prophecies. They had foreseen that they were coming. But they knew that he too had a sacred story of creation, and his footsteps arrived on another land, referring to another continent, in that we would not stand up in arms, which was very important, that our people resisted war, regardless of all the events of terror and murders and different tragic events that they put upon the native people. Our people still refused to war because of our foods are pure. For that purpose, they preserve that for us that weren't even born in that time. And we are doing the same way for our future generation, for our children, those unborn. Since then, the progress has arrived. Navigation, the dams, electricity, railroads, all violating the laws that our people followed. They covered the burial grounds by water, their burial grounds dug up, stolen of artifacts. Religious sites, legend story sites are covered, destroyed by construction. These are big laws that are being violated, and our Mother Earth is getting tired. She is enslaved all around the clock. The non-Indian, they don't sleep. They always produce ideas and plans to utilize the earth in all elements. They are attacking without regard, without respect. They themselves don't believe in their own way. They don't believe in the law that they were given. How are they going to respect us in our belief? It's a worrisome, it's a scary thing to think of, the future of this earth. We as one or a few people can make little change, but it's going to take a world of change for anything. What we see in our foods is fearful to our ladies, to our men that fish, that get roots and berries, because the effects of the earth is seen in our food. Nobody's scared. We could tell the non-Indian this and they're not afraid. It's not their food. We still have that relationship to our Mother Earth. They brought invasive species of all sorts of the earth, of the water, trees, everything has invasive earth, and the water is being invaded. The native plants, waterways are being intruded. The native plants and so on, they can't live. They're struggling to live. The animals, fish. So there's all different resources beyond salmon that this affects. Different plants that are material or woods or trees that are for our purpose of everyday life. From birth to make a child, to make materials for a baby, or whatever we use as a living person, and in our burial. So there's a lot of things that the salmon is related to, a food chain. They provide nourishment to the earth when their bodies die. Indians already knew this. Not only food for animals, for people. But this is as much as I can say, a short statement, and this is all.
Our elders say that the rivers tell a story, and today the story is saying the Yakama Nation have returned sockeye to the Cleella River, and they are now spawning and making their nests and laying their eggs.
Traditionally, the sockeye has been a staple for the Yakama Nation diet ever since the people started fishing for sockeye eons ago.
I think every member of our tribe should have a trip up here. This is the best aquarium in the state.
Everything benefits from the salmon. It's a vital resource that's been missing for over 100 years.
The elders spoke about the salmon in such numbers that they could walk across the backs of their salmon.
My dad, my grandpa, everybody for generations were fishermen. I ate fish for every meal, growing up. It's something that I look back on, I'm very thankful for that.
When you put those dams in front of lakes and there's no fish ladders for those fish to swim up, and you're just wiping out the fish, causing them to go to extinction.
Our seasons were getting shortened and there was no fish, and my first instinct was, I need to go work for fisheries. We transport these fish, we handle them directly, and this is my project, so I consider them my babies. This is the only salmon that utilizes a lake system for their survival. They utilize the lake for a nursery, basically.
What you're seeing today is sockeye that were transplanted from Priest Rapids Dam. There was a link that was missing. It was taken out of their survival. And so now that link has been put back into place, and now we're starting to see the survival of the salmon and the reproduction of the salmon. Once the fish ladders are put in place, you won't have to transplant those fish anymore. The sockeye salmon will be able to come up here and spawn naturally year after year, and the generations will continue to grow.
The balance for all of our survival depends on that balance between these fish, this forest, the water, and one is not without the other. The salmon and the salmon spawning runs actually have a lot to do with forest health. So with that, we can expect to see a lot more wildlife come back into the area.
I visited hatcheries clear up in Alaska, into Canada, and nobody's ever done anything like this before. And I'm very glad to be a part of it.
One of our earliest memories that we're taught as Yakima children is we're sitting at a ceremonial table waiting for the water to be poured. And that water gets poured, and then what follows is the salmon, the deer or elk, the roots, and the berries, and the meal is completed with water. So in a lot of the same way, our restoration, it starts that way. We fix the water first so that we know the other resources will follow, and then we complete it with water so that we know it's a cycle. And we know that any kind of restoration that has to happen with salmon has to include a holistic water for the basin.
Shakpachwe. My name is Saluskin. My English name is Virgil Lewis Sr., and I am the Vice Chairman for the Yakama Nation Tribal Council. I would like to give thanks to the Nez Perce tribe for hosting this Salmon Orca Summit. I also would like to give thanks to the Upper Left Strategies for providing the materials to be able to do this, and also Yakama Nation staff and Tribal Council. You've heard testimony from our council, the chairman, Jeremy, our staff. You've even seen videos of Yakama Nation and some of the work that has been done. So I don't have a whole lot more to add to that. One of the concerns that I have is that we're working to rebuild the salmon stocks. And the most difficult part of doing that is to remember that the Columbia River is the lifeline for the salmon. If the Columbia River is not healthy, then we've got problems. We can do all that we can, and the salmon will continue to decline. The rising temperatures in the main stem Columbia is a problem that we're going to have to deal with. Everybody has to wake up and look at the Columbia River as the main flow to get salmon to everybody in the Northwest, at least those that are inland. When the dams were put in place, it created a series of lakes. Those lakes are slowing down the main flow of the Columbia River, and it's raising the water temperatures, making it dangerous for salmon, juvenile salmon, and adult salmon. We've had sockeye die off some years ago, and salmon die off and sturgeon die off from the rising water temperatures in the summertime. One of the areas that we need to consider focusing on is creating a more healthy environment. I appreciate the efforts of the Nez Perce tribe to recommend the removal of the Snake River dams. And if that were done, that would cool the water down so it would come into the Columbia River and reduce the temperature in the main stem Columbia. And Yakama Nation supports that. But one of the things that I want to impress upon many of you is that how long is that going to take? How long will it be before Congress says, you're right, let's take those dams out? What I would like to propose in the meantime is at least doing something immediately. And one of the things that I would like to see is the dredging of the main stem Columbia from Bonneville Dam up to McNary. By taking out the sediment buildup in the main stem Columbia, you're going to release some of those areas that are being slowed down. You're going to create faster flowing water, cooler water, and you're going to create an environment that is more beneficial to the adult salmon and juvenile salmon going out into the ocean. Another area that is of concern is predation. We have, because of the slower moving water, you have northern pike minnow, you have birds, you have sea lions, you have bass, you have all these predators preying upon the juvenile salmon. And now you have sea lions below Bonneville Dam that's preying on the returning adult salmon. So because of this, it's taking its toll. We have to be aware that something has to be done to protect our salmon. And if we don't do it, we're not doing our jobs. The Creator put us here and put the salmon here, and we're supposed to speak for those that cannot speak for themselves. And the salmon is reaching out to us. They're telling us that their population is endangered. And we, as the protectors of the resource, have to do something to bring them back. You know, I mentioned that you've heard testimony from our council members, you've seen videos. It all ties in. Everything that we do when the salmon first come into the Columbia River and start making their way up, they rely on us to be able to help their populations. And so we need to focus on that. We need to, as a group, remember that the salmon are there because we are here. And if the salmon are gone, we won't be there. So with that, I ask for the consideration from all tribes to think that we need to work together. We all need to focus on where our resources at. Where is it? What are we doing to rebuild the resource? So thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
So good afternoon. My name is Philip Rigdon. I'm the Superintendent of Department of Natural Resources for the Yakama Nation. And it's an honor to be here and kind of close up our conversation because as you see through this whole thing, the pride our people take on the places that we come from, where our connection to the river, our connection to all these places makes us the Yakima people, makes us connected. And the important part for what we're talking about in this discussion is the restoration. And I always look back when our leadership, we fought in court to get to the places where we're at, US v. Washington, US v. Oregon. And we ended up into this position where the salmon slowly were declining. And the leadership said, instead of telling the state and feds to do it, they said, we need to do it. And so we invested in sending people like myself and a lot of our other science-based folks to go to school. We moved into an arena where we are now the leaders, and tribal members are taking the leadership roles up and down. But we have people that work for us and that group is leading the way with all the partners, the co-managers in doing the restoration. But there's an urgency that really needs to happen. And we call upon everyone to continue to, we talk about the Orca, we talk about all these connections to different places. Those foods and our way of life is tied to exactly all of those things, our place and those teachings. And we do this as Yellow Wash, our former council leader, and many of our others, they as they said, we're leaving this behind to the next generation, and that generation it doesn't belong to us. It's to those folks. And so as we take care of this, we hope that we could pass along, but the time is urgent for us to do there. And so we call upon, and we thank you for this time to share. We thank the NSPers for the opportunity and the leadership that they've called upon in this webinar and these conversations. And we call upon all of our partners and all the people that are sitting here that want to see salmon in the Columbia River to remember those words that have been said today by our leaders, the words that are being said and how we will continue to, the struggles to fight for these things and the damages that have been done, but also how do we do the most interesting things with sockeye restoration, with dealing with challenges, but also bringing the science with using hatcheries, the supplementation, and using those things to make us beneficial into how we do the business of salmon recovery. It's a connection to people, a connection to place, and it's also very important for how, it is our path and our way of life that is tied to this. And so I thank everybody that's been on, that you took the hour to come here and be a part of this conversation. And I really thank, just the leadership that we've seen. And with that, I'll turn this back to Kehlani and thank them for the opportunity for the Yakama Nation to give a piece. But before we do that, I do want to mention that you could go on to and it'll be put in the chat thing. You can go onto the Yakama Nation Fisheries website, and there's some storybooks, and it will talk about many of the projects that our people and our tribe has been working on with our biologists and our tribal members. And there's a ton of work, and it's exciting to see. And with that, I will turn it back now. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil, for closing us out. This has been a wonderful presentation. I really appreciated the video where the woman had talked about water and really it coming first and finishing things up. When you look at the landscape and we talk about Mother Nature, these waterways are the veins. And if they're not flowing properly, we're not going to survive. We are all attached to that in one way or another. Vice Chairman Wheeler from the Nez Perce Tribe mentioned this morning that he learned not too long ago from an elder that these aren't just resources, they're life sources. Without these life sources, just as Yakama mentioned, we're not going to be here either. Huge thank you to Yakama Nation for being with us today and providing these strong words. It's truly been a pleasure. And thank you all for taking your lunch hour to spend it with us in the Salmon Orca project. I just want to remind you all that we are doing these every month, and I am so excited to announce that in May, we will be hosting the speaker series in person in Spokane, Washington. So be on the lookout for the details of that, and I hope you all can participate and attend there. Just as a reminder, if you have not been able to catch all of these, you can go to the Salmon Orca Project website at salmonorcaproject.com. They've all been recorded and listed there. And of course, to stay up to date on what we're doing and what we have coming up, stay tuned to our social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Salmon Orca Project. Thank you again, and we'll see you next month.